Hello, good afternoon. This is U.S. Immigration Attorney Sharifa Tharpe. I am here live to take your questions, but I also have great news. I wanted to share this news with you today. The USCIS just announced that they will be waiving interviews. Interviews for the 10-year green card. So if you're going from the 2-year green card to the 10-year green card, they now will be waiving interviews unless, of course, they spot issues that they have concerns about. But if they review your application, they review the evidence, and it's a very thorough, well done application that shows that you qualify for the 10-year green card, going from the 2-year to the 10-year green card, then they're going to go ahead and waive the interview. That means no interviews. It just means you'll get a 10-year green card in the mail. Now, they have said that they have to do that because the previous policy stated that interviews had to be mandatory. But they have found that this has created, it's not sustainable, obviously, because people have been waiting for 2 years or more for their 10-year green card. And so they have decided that the new policy change is that they'll waive interviews unless they spot issues that they are going to be concerned about. So that's where it's still very, very important to make sure you submit a thorough, well done application. Because at that point, if they do spot a missing information, or they spot inconsistencies, or they spot outdated evidence, anything that's going to indicate to them or raise more questions about your marriage than answers, is going to mean that you're probably still going to have to go through the interview process. So make sure this is a case type that I work on. You can always call, schedule the consultation. We'll talk about your issue and then we'll get started. This is also applicable in cases where you're applying without your spouse. So if you're applying for a waiver based on a divorce, based on mistreatment, based on extreme hardship, they can still waive the interview unless they have additional questions or they have additional concerns. For example, if they don't have sufficient evidence to show that the marriage was bona fide, you do have to show bona fide marriage even when you're applying on your own, then that could be raise questions and cause them to issue an interview notice. Also, in the case that they spot any concerning issues like immigration violations, inconsistent information that make them wonder if there's any misrepresentation involved, that can also cause you to have an interview instead of it being waived. So if you have any of these concerns yourself, for example, once you are without your spouse, you need to make sure you consult with an attorney. I am available to assist you with this, to determine how to move forward and then to provide a strong application, which could mean you don't have to have an interview. You would just get your green card in the mail. So it's exciting news. I think this will definitely clear the backlog. But you also have to make sure you do your part to ensure that you can get that interview waived. While there are no guarantees it's going to be waived, presenting a strong application is going to reduce the risk of an interview happening. So you can go to the link in the profile. It's going to take you to the website where you will have all the information you need to schedule a consultation, talk about your issue, whether you're with your spouse, whether you're without your spouse. There are ways to still apply, and they are waiving the interviews in cases where you are no longer with your spouse and you're not applying with your spouse. But the thing about that, though, is that when you're applying without your spouse, you must submit a waiver. So if you don't submit a waiver, then they're going to have questions. So you have to do it properly in order to get that interview waived. It is still up to the officer to decide whether they're going to waive the interview, and that's going to be based on the application in front of them. Hi there, Amanda. It's so nice to see you. Now, I'm also here to answer your immigration related questions. I couldn't wait to tell you the good news, so I'm on a little early, but I will be back tomorrow at the usual time, which would be 4 p.m. Eastern. But today I came on early because I could not hold my excitement. I want to let you know about this great news. It is going to make a world of a difference as long as you submit a strong application and that you take all the steps. Then you could get your interview waived and you could just get your green card in the mail. So go ahead, put your questions in the comments while I'm here. Now, if you have, you can always ask me any immigration related questions. If you need personalized legal advice and representation, that's where you should definitely follow up with me by clicking on the link in the profile. It's going to take you to the website. When you get to the website, there's the phone number, there's the contact form, and then there's also the chat. And the scheduling coordinators are available to go ahead, take your call, and help you. Hi there, Vibes Cartel Vine. It's nice to see you. Thanks for the shout out. So, this is exciting. It's really what we need because right now going from the 2-year green card to the 10-year green card is extremely backlogged. If you're going through it, you know what I mean. It's taking anywhere from 2 years or more to get the 10-year green card. And that's if you're approved. You know, sometimes you can go on and on with a request for evidence. And so now what they're doing is they're not doing those interviews unless the officer spots issues that are of concern to them. All right, so I see some questions coming in, so let me go ahead and answer. Can you expedite an I-130 form? Absolutely, but you have to just make sure that you qualify to get it expedited. They do look at whether there's going to be a financial loss to a company or a person. They're going to look at whether there's a humanitarian urgent need to get this expedited. They're going to look at whether there was some delay caused by the USCIS and now they need to rectify it by expediting it. And so, you know, it's going to depend on your particular situation. It's really on a case-by-case basis. For my clients, in the case that they do qualify, that is a part of my service, is I ask for expedites should they qualify for it. So that's another benefit here of my representation or an attorney's representation. Attorneys can be on hand. I'm usually on hand for my clients to submit expedite requests if necessary. So if I get married before applying for citizenship, is it that I have to change all my documents? So it's not mandatory to, and this is just generally, I don't know your situation, I haven't reviewed your circumstances, but it's not mandatory to change your documents unless, of course, you legally change your name, you want to take on your spouse's name. Then in that case, you'd want to make sure that your documents are consistent across the board. So if you, for example, you got your marriage certificate, then you changed your social security, then you went and changed your driver's license and your passport, then just to keep it all consistent. Otherwise, sometimes you may have to prove that, you know, you're the same person. So, how long will it take if someone married a green card holder for them to get a green card? So I would say prepare for an 18-month to 24-month period. Right now, it's on the same timeline as the marrying a U.S. citizen. The only difference, though, is marrying a U.S. citizen, even if you're out of status here, if you overstayed, I should say here, means that you still get to adjust status. You still get to stay here and apply for the green card. If you're outside of the U.S. or if you're here without status and you're married to a green card holder and the green card holder cannot become a U.S. citizen right now, then you're going to have to go through a different process. But all of those processes could be anywhere from 18 to 24 months. If you do have to apply for a waiver, though, if your case gets more complex, that's going to additional time to the process. Vibes Cartel says, guys, please, I cannot stress enough. Please get your consultation. You won't be sorry. Thanks so much for that. I appreciate it. Hello, if my brother was to come up through Mexico, can he file for a work permit or green card? So definitely, that's not the best way to just get a work permit or a green card. When you get to the border, you're going to have to. So first of all, if you get to the border, you may be able to claim asylum if they qualify for asylum. That's the other thing. Remember that they do a credible, fair evaluation at the border to make sure that that's the case. And so you can't just frivolously say that you're applying for asylum and get into the U.S. It's not the best way to just go through across the border, sneak across the border, because you're going to find that your applications, if you even qualify for anything, is going to be 10 times more complex. And you may just find yourself right back in immigration court and being deported. So that's not the way to go. That's my first inclination. However, I don't know what your brother's situation is. That's where he should call and schedule a consultation. Because there are individuals who have to be at the border because they are fleeing for their lives. They need safety, and the U.S. offers that for them. And so they have to go through the border and declare asylum. But it doesn't mean everybody that shows up at the border is just going to get to come in and get a work permit or a green card. You have to qualify in some way to get a work permit or a green card. It's not just based on, I want a work permit or a green card and I'm here in the U.S. You'll find that your brother will be here and he will feel very stuck. All right, thanks for these questions. Keep those questions coming. All right, so let's see. So if I get married overseas in a foreign country, do I have to do anything here in the USA? So that's very, very, very specific. I'll have to evaluate your situation to determine what that means. I don't know if you're the U.S. citizen. If you're the U.S. citizen, you got married in a foreign country and you want your spouse to come to the U.S., then you would have to file for your spouse here in the U.S., and then eventually it will be processed at the embassy. So schedule a consultation. Let's talk about your situation. Please enlighten us on priority cases and how we can get the cases terminated. Okay, so it's really on a case-by-case basis. So what user 3340 is talking about is the memo that was issued to ICE prosecutors, encouraging them to take certain cases off the docket if they're low priority, meaning the immigrant has been here for a long time, so they haven't recently crossed the border. So if you cross the border, you may still be stuck in proceedings. And you're you don't have any risk to public safety. So you don't have any criminal issues in your background or any concerns of that nature. And so in that case, they're saying get those cases off the docket. But it does not mean that you will be allowed to stay here, that you all automatically will get status. So for example, if you're applying for asylum and you want to follow through with your asylum proceedings, then you wouldn't want it to be terminated because asylum will lead to you getting status here. So it really is on a case-by-case basis. User 3340, that's where it's important to schedule an appointment. Let's talk about your particular situation. As the attorney, I can work with government counsel to negotiate and get it off the docket, get it terminated, should you qualify. But I need to figure out where you are in the case, what's going on, what's your background to move forward with anything like that. How long after receiving case as send in documents does it take to get an interview date? So it's going to vary, and I don't know what type of application you've submitted. I know with marriage-based, you could be looking at anywhere from 9 months to 12 months to just get the interview. I've had shorter dates, but I would say with the current backlogs and the lengthy processing times, I'd say prepare for, at least a year. If anybody have asylum case and got married, how can they apply for the green card? So that's more complex. We would have to evaluate the asylum and then the green card process and determine what's right. Are there any possible implications involved here? It is possible to apply for the green card and then have the asylum canceled, but we would have to figure out what your particular situation is. Is it true when you go in for a citizenship interview and you cannot read, you can go to the doctor? So you have to have a disability. So the disability can allow you to get your interview, your test waived. But a doctor has to evaluate you and then explain exactly why is it that if somehow your inability to read is linked to the disability, then in that case, you may be able to get it waived. But the doctor is going to have to make a truthful evaluation of your case, give a diagnosis, and put detailed notes there. I need an I-94. You're usually issued the I-94 when you're coming in. If you have been issued an I-94, but you weren't given it in your hand, you can go to the CBP's website and pull your most recent I-94 from there. So you can marry someone who's had a green card. You don't have to wait until the person's a citizen. Now, I don't know what your situation is. In some cases, it is best some cases it's recommended. If they're about to apply for citizenship, then that would be the best path. But if they are a permanent resident and they are not going to become a citizen soon, then in a case like that, you could move forward, but it's going to be a more complex process if you're here out of status. So it's very, very, very important at this point to schedule a consultation, because that's how you're going to know what your particular situation, which path is going to be best for you. It is possible, but I wouldn't be able to tell which one is best unless I do a consultation. You can go to the link in the profile. Anybody here who's listening, you can always go to the link in the profile. It's going to take you to the website where you will be able to schedule your consultation by calling, and you can even do it on your own by going to the Contact Us. After filing the D260 for DV lottery, what's the next step? So once you've submitted all the documentation that they need, then they're going to schedule that appointment. But I'm not your attorney. I haven't evaluated your case, and I wouldn't be able to tell you. I don't even know what stage you're at, but usually once it gets to the point where you've paid your fees, you've submitted your applications, you've submitted all the required documentation, then they're going to schedule the interview. How long after receiving case ID and submitting documents does it take to get an interview? So that's it's up and down. Unfortunately, I don't have an estimate down to a scientific certainty. Why isn't the visa bulletin changed in years? Would you know? The date for F1 is still December 2014. So it changes from each month. Sometimes it can stay the same, but if you're going to see an update, it's going to be once a month. And it could be there's a backlog, unfortunately, Princess. And when there's that severe backlog, it could mean that they could be stuck on the same date for a long time. Thanks for sharing. I appreciate it. And thank you. I love this color too. You'll see this color on me all the time. I'm glad you're excited, Samantha. I don't see, I guess you're having a conversation there. So 5453, thanks for the follow. How long is the process for a U.S. citizen child to file for a parent? So you could be looking at anywhere from 9 months to over a year. All right, so I am not going to finish this I'm going to be heading on over to Instagram to tell them the good news about the new announcement the USCIS made about waiving the interview when you're applying for the 2-year green card to the 10-year green card. So I'm heading on over there. If you would like to continue this conversation, go ahead and hop on over there with me. I am the immigration attorney on Instagram. I'll be back tomorrow as usual at 4 p.m. Eastern time to go ahead. I'll bring another topic and you can bring your questions. If you didn't get to ask your question or I didn't get to answer your questions, you can join me on Instagram. As a matter of fact, that's where most of my videos are released. Go ahead and ask there. So I have one question I rarely get on YouTube, so I'm going to answer it here. I've been waiting for my work permit from 2020, received prima facie, tried to get some benefits, but couldn't. The benefit center wrote to the Congress. So unfortunately, the prima facie, whether you can get benefits, the prima facie is issued to, it's a type of letter that's issued to say, they think you qualify. However, they want to go through your application with a fine-tooth comb. Now, in the case that it differs from state to state, some states will not provide benefits, public benefits, based on a prima facie, while others would. So I'm sorry that you're having difficulties there. All right, so go ahead and join me on Instagram or Facebook. I'm the immigration attorney on Instagram, same as here. I'll see you tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern time to continue having this conversation. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you soon. I hope to see you tomorrow, see you on Instagram, or speak with you in a consultation. Have